I came from a family of many teachers. When I told them I wanted to go for MO interview, their first response was, no.
Surely marking 40 scripts for one class and you have multiple classes versus marking 30, let's just choose an arbitrary number 30. Huge difference, wouldn't it?
If you have done your best, who is to say you're not my best student?
Don't mind if I use your line next time.
Hi everyone, I'm Shahinda from Mothership. Thank you for joining us today. I'm joined with Minister of Education Chan Chun Sing and some teachers. Are teachers in Singapore overworked? We will find out in today's conversation. Let's start with the biggest question I think I can ask for today. What inspired you to join the teaching profession, and what has been the most rewarding thing for you so far?
I must say I'm quite single-minded because that was the only thing I want to do. I remember when my teacher asked me to write, what's the ambition? And in the composition, I only want to be a teacher. What really brings me to school every morning is the smiling faces on the children. I spent about 17 years in three girls' schools. I think the girls are so wonderful. Right? We have so many things to talk about beyond just what's happening in the classroom. Till today, my students actually still visit my home right, during Chinese New Year.
And you still give them a bao?
I do. In the past, I gave them. Now I give to their children.
Oh, really? They brought their children to visit you?
Expensive,
Mine's the opposite of Mrs. Lee, actually. I never thought I'll become a teacher. Growing up, I wasn't the best student, but that's also quite the main reason why I went to teaching. Despite the challenges that I presented to my teachers, there were the teachers who showed me that they were non-judgmental. They really cared for who I am and not what they see. I was a cabin crew for a while. I grew up from not a well-to-do family, never got to fly. That was the best way for me to see the world for free. Once I saw all the different places for 2.5 years, enough is enough. Was lucky to find a job in a local fintech company, which I enjoyed tremendously. I was driven to come to work every single day, but something just called to me, and one of them is actually my wife. Hello, wife. She's an amazing teacher, and despite all the complaints that she's had, all the markings and everything, it just takes that few moments where she will share about this particular child that she had trouble with and who wrote her a letter in appreciation. It's like, that's what I crave. This is meaning.
I understand that it's not exactly easy jumping into the teaching industry. Maybe you can share a bit more on that.
Education is not plan B to be an educator. It doesn't mean that you are successful outside that you can be a good teacher. The best soccer players are not the best coaches.
Yep.
I have faith in myself that whatever work experience I had, the skills that I learned, helped me to become a good teacher. And I would encourage anyone out there who have the heart for the child and who's got expertise in your accountancy or your legal or whatever. If you have the heart, come and teach, because then you are not impacting one or two, you are impacting an entire generation.
Growing up, I came from a family of many teachers. When I told them I wanted to go for MO interview, their first response was, no. But you see, it helped me because when I went for interview, I had two principals interviewing me and I said, I should be here today. I said, why? My parents told me don't come. Why? Because they're teachers. Then they both laughed. And I think the interview went a lot easier after that. I was a very bad student. But after army, I had a short stint teaching, not in MOE school actually, in a tuition center. And then I realized that what I really enjoyed was interacting with students and everything. I want to see more of my students. I want to do CCAs. I want to do all these things. But tuition center don't have. So I said, okay, I apply to MOE instead. Being able to interact with students has been a high point. When you look at how they've grown, you can't help but feel very proud of how they've grown and developed over the years.
I'm wondering whether we are seated here because they dug up our disciplinary records.
Must be. They must always pull out one or two rascals somewhere, right?
When I was in university, I actually tutored my nephew. After the exam result came back, he gave me a call. He said, Atsik, I got first. Then I looked at the phone. I said, hello, who's this again? Because no one believed him. It was actually after subsequently when I looked at him, there was a light in his eyes that it's personal efficacy. He suddenly believed that he could achieve. During the COVID period, it was very, very tough. So I had one student who collected A-level results. She did not do that well. She said, Mr. Ng, I know I'm not your best student, but I have done my best. And then I looked at the message and I replied, if you have done your best, who is to say you're not my best student?
Oh,
yeah, and that is something that really gives meaning to the work that we do.
It's very interesting to hear all your stories. Personally, my mom is a teacher, my dad is a teacher as well. Interestingly, my mom actually encouraged me to be a teacher, but I told her, after looking at you, maybe not.
So after this interview will change, right? You will
we'll
join
see
us?
lah, we'll see. Just started, yeah. Just started.
You see, they all started with, better don't become the... You never know, maybe after this we'll poach you from Mothership.
I sit on the interview panel.
I shared that because I've seen just how stressful it can be to be a teacher. I think it's important for us to also share with our viewers what exactly goes on a day-to-day basis for a teacher.
First of all, it's morning assembly. We have to take attendance. If there are any students that are missing, some are text their parents. It's important that the parents are aware whether the kids are in school or not.
Actually, that's very important. I think a lot of people sometimes forget that. They think the teachers teach, right? That's the first job. What I am hearing is that the first job is not even teaching. The first job is relationship building. I think especially for the higher needs student, without that trust, that relationship, the teaching and learning can't even start.
Subsequently, it's lesson time. If a kid is sleeping in class, I always walk over and ask, are you okay? Are you feeling well? We have no idea what's really going on outside of the kid's life. Is it a case of where there's some family drama going on that they cannot tell us? In between lessons, you either catch up on admin or you are prepping for the next lesson. And of course, marking is always a bugbear.
As a principal, the not so exciting thing is to play email, attend meeting. During recess time, whenever there's no meeting, we were trying to go out to the canteen. You can see a child, coming into the school, at first no interest in reading or not interacting with people, but now we're going to go to the shelf and take a book to read. All this are relationship building.
If you ask teachers, right, they will tell you that we are social workers, we are psychologists, we are the parents sometimes, we are the bus drivers. I'm sometimes a part-time lifeguard at a swimming pool. I'm working as hard as I did in my previous job, but now when I know I've done a good job, it's written on the smiles of my students' faces. I just want to give a shout out because they are not represented here. Two groups of CNOs, right? Our special
Special Education Needs
officers and our allied educators as well. When I went to primary school and saw the work that they did in terms of really supporting the teachers, wow, I'm really grateful to them. Sir, can we have more, please?
Actually, today we do have quite specialist roles in the what we call the school fraternity, not just the teaching fraternity. There are special education needs officers, there are allied educators who are helping and working with our teachers to take care of the students. Over time, of course, we like to have more of these people, but it's not just the numbers, it's actually the quality, because the kind of training that we need for this specialist staff is actually increasing every day.
I'm usually ICT. ICT stands for Infocom Technology, so I'm looking at educational technology tools that teachers can use to improve their teaching and learning. In my role, I'm constantly thinking about my wife and all my other colleagues who are burdened with their markings, which are important, but certain things take up an inordinate amount of time. And I'm really thankful that our MOE has invested lots of money into our student learning space systems, which aims to alleviate the amount of work that our teachers have to make.
I think this struggle I realized very early on in my career, which is teachers face a lot of decision fatigue. Wow, I got to make decision. Every moment I make a decision. And then marking is one of those things where I'm spending so much time deciding every line. How should I, is this, especially for English, there's no right answer. Is this appropriate? So it's very tiring. So I find that usually I'll mark maybe 3 or 4 or 5 scripts and I got put it down. Time out. Time out. Then I come back. Especially the handwriting worse, then I also need eye time out, that kind of thing, It's very tiring because even if I'm given the full amount of time to mark, it's very emotionally and exhausting, decision fatigue. So I think the SOS kind of things and the kind of work that we're doing frees us from making smaller decisions, which then allows us to make decisions that matter.
I think there's still many more commercial technologies out there that can help us, not just for English, but maybe for mother tongue, certainly for math and science, whereby sometimes the AI or the computer program can kind of know what's your level, and then they give you another question just to nudge you a bit. And I think that is the kind of training, what I call the class size of 1, Ultimately the class size of 1, because you are really learning at your own pace rather than just doing general.
One of the challenges I feel as somebody who has been out in the private sector and then come into education is there is still that idea that academics trumps all. Lots of other things are important, like your ability to speak well, confidently. Mr. Van, can I ask you a difficult question?
Yes.
Would you, if you were on the panel, then first ask about credentials when somebody is applying for a scholarship?
So this is exactly what the public service is trying to do. I won't say that we are there.
Okay.
I would say that we are probably better than yesterday, but still a long way to go.
Okay.
We are not saying that academics is not important. It gives you a certain baseline. But beyond that baseline, there are other skill sets that we need our students to go and learn. Which is why for so many years we keep talking about 21st century competencies and things like that. But it's not easy for the public to appreciate and understand what are these things.
I think the case would be that CCAs are critical, right? Because when you talk about CCAs to parents, they'll be like, yeah, I mean, CCA good lah. If you can be captain, you win national or whatever, I think it's very important. But a lot of parents will come and say, but isn't it important to get your 4 A's first? It's very difficult as a CCA teacher in charge to actually break the mindset. And I actually, as a teacher, I see it's because CCA is a free, open space for them to learn and grow, and they build these competency so much more, and especially for some students who may not be so academic. I saw my weaker students on the parade ground as a uniform group, and I was just blown away. I said, how come you can be so kilat, in your drills, everything, but then in class you lembe down there, you falling asleep in my class. And that was such a moment for me, as a moment of belief as a teacher. Hey, they can, they can deliver. It's just which arena and how you transfer that.
What is the perfect class size number? Because many people believe that reducing the class size number will help to engage the students even more and make the best out of their abilities.
The smallest class I've ever taught was 6. This will be a very cozy experience. I was wrong. The class was actually one of the most difficult to teach ever because they're all very quiet. All of them stare at me. In contrast to another science class, about 20 plus students, the discussion was so much richer. Okay, partially because there was diversity of views. They raised questions that their fellow classmates don't think about.
I have a similar problem because one of the classes I have 10. My worry right now is what if they don't talk? I just need 3 or 4 of them to not talk, then no one else will want to talk. Even if I want to talk also, I look around, no one talking, I don't talk. So how?
It's very interesting. Both of your experiences managing classes is about getting the students to open up. But I think on a primary level, it's a bit more. They are already open up. It's about how to ensure that they control themselves. Is that true?
So if you're asking about class size, we actually don't have a standardized class size in primary school. P1 and 2 is 30 per class anyway, because they are getting to learn how to interact with each other. So a lot of social skills. But I think when you come to P3 to P6, actually our class size vary. Depending on the profile of the children, if they're more independent in learning, actually we can have bigger class size. But for some class size, we have classes that's 1 to 3, 1 to 6, so that the teachers can really cater to the learning pace of the children.
The worst is you talk to yourself for 1.5 hours, you come out completely drained, Maybe I should just record it myself and play a few times. This is not a lesson, this is a monologue. Oh, cannot.
I'm fortunate as a PE teacher, I don't do any marking, thank goodness. But I can empathize with my colleagues. Surely marking 40 scripts for one class and you have multiple classes versus marking 30. Let's just choose an arbitrary number 30. Huge difference. Wouldn't you be able to say that you will be able to give better feedback, be a better teacher to these 30 students compared to 40? Then I will turn here to the Minister and ask, I understand that our enrollment is going down and schools have to be closed down. Instead of closing those schools down, can we maintain the number of teachers so that these teachers can go to these smaller schools? Then we can have a class of 30, sometimes 10, but definitely not 40.
It's true that our population is coming down, our school population is coming down, but actually the number of quality teachers that we can recruit as a proportion of the whole cohort is relatively stable.
Okay.
And we know that if the school is too small in terms of the number of students, it also affects the quality of the programs that we can have. We have an average number of students to teachers, but from what you have described, actually the variation is quite big. Whether we have a smaller or a bigger class size depends on quite many factors. So actually the judgment on how to group students together based on their abilities, based on the interactions to make a class interesting is actually a decision that we have to make every day. And we know that if the school is too small in terms of the number of students, it also affects the quality of the programs that we can have. There's a certain efficient size of the school. It's true, all of us would prefer to have a smaller class size if we can afford it and if we can make it work. Then the question is how to make it work with the resources that we have. How can we use technology to complement the abilities of our teachers? It's not that our teachers are lazy and don't want to do any work. I think all of you all want to do impactful work. Work that really help your children. If you are an English teacher, if you have a system that can allow you at least get rid of the grammatical errors, spelling errors, then it allows you to do the higher order work, then actually that would be something that can complement the teacher's ability.
Some of the parents, they can be very, very aggressive. So the school leader told us that, the parent pointed a finger at her, okay, and said, you do this.
Sometimes this eagerness to provide as much information is not great. Let your child forget to bring a thing, because that's when they learn.
There are another 95% who are very supportive in school.